Today's show is brought to you by the best-selling book Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. It's a book that will make you safer. So go get it and tell them Grandma sent you. Something like that. Let's start the show.
The truth has arrived.
My name is Jonathan Gilliam, and this is The Experts. And welcome back to the show, and thanks to whoever's grandma that was. So I'm killing myself here. So we got really today's show is kind of interesting because I'm just going to go over some of the headlines because, man, there's some humdinger headlines in the news today. They're just, it's almost like make-believe now in the news. Well, it's been like that for a long time, but today is especially good. In fact, these headlines are so good, I don't know where to start. So actually, I'm going to start with something kind of serious, and we'll hit the lighter stuff there towards, well, actually, it's not really light. I mean, this is supposedly serious news, right? And you'll see as I go through the headlines. So what I do want to talk about is the current director of Homeland Security. Today he gave, I think, probably one of the best overt examples of how far left the Biden administration is, and we all know that the Democrat Party is a communist party. Okay, don't kid yourself. Socialist, communist, whatever you want to call it, globalist, progressive Democrats. It's all the same. It's all the same. Okay, and we know how far left they are. I mean, look at how they support Black Lives Matter, which was started by three lesbian communists. Honest to goodness, look it up. Not making that up. Okay. Radicals, look, they didn't have to be lesbians. I don't really care about that one way or the other, but the fact is they're activists. They're lesbian activists and they're communist activists. And they're the ones who started Black Lives Matter. Antifa is a total fascist. They're supposed to be anti-fascist. They're the most fascist group of people that there are in this nation. And they pretty much work hand in hand with BLM and the Democrat Party. All the riots and the destruction that you've seen, this is no surprise, right? You know all about this stuff. But I think from just an outward presidential administration, it's a good example of how elitist these people are and how they use Trump. This is why, bringing Trump back in 2024 is something that we need to seriously consider. He's a great president. I think he did a great job, but we need to seriously consider this. How are we, and I talked a little bit about this yesterday, but how it's affected now that these weirdos are in office now. If we don't completely eradicate this nation from the leftist control, even if we got the president back in office in 2024, it's only going to push that needle down 4 more years, right? It's only going to be another 4 years because he can't run again, and he's not an emperor, so don't worship him. I pointed that out yesterday about politicians. And listen, I said this yesterday. I was actually pleased that a lot of people agreed with me. I think CPAC, Sunday's CPAC address, was that Sunday or Monday when he gave that seat? So it was yesterday's CPAC address, Monday's, was the first political speech that Donald Trump has given, I think, period. It was politics, and that bothered me a little bit, okay? So with these people, you can't push them back 4 years because they're just going to start up again and be more vicious, which this guy shows. They have to be, the party has to be destroyed. It has to be completely eliminated. Otherwise, they're like a virus. They just keep coming back, and they're worse and worse and worse. More like a cancer than a virus. So this was Kristen Fisher was talking to the DHS secretary of DHS, which this guy's a Democrat. He's a leftist. He's a weirdo. But I got to be honest with you, Chad Wolf, who Trump appointed, was worthless and is an establishment wonk who's never done anything except exist in Washington, D.C. somehow. So I don't know what's worse, the leftists, again, or the careerist Washington, D.C. Weirdos like Bill Barr, Chad Wolf, Durham, who was supposedly everybody, all the Q fanatics thought was going to save everything. By the way, for all the Q people, March 4th is going to come and go, and Trump will not be president, okay? I don't know where you weirdos come up with this stuff. And I'm sorry if I'm calling you weirdo and you're a patriot. Listen, be a patriot. Stop following this stuff. I will continue to put pressure upon you to stand above this weird movement of false prophets and false prophecy. And it's not this, nothing comes to fruition. It's been a complete distraction from what the American people should have been focusing on the entire time, which was themselves standing together and doing what they needed to do to take this country back. And instead, the majority of people that stood up and went forward in the name of QAnon just totally screwed everything up is what they did. They got in the way of patriots standing together because they believe in some secret plan. Listen, let me tell you something, okay? I keep hearing this over and over again from all different kinds of people. They have a plan. Listen, there's no plans, okay? There's no plans to fix the government. There's no secret thing that's going to happen. The only secrets as far as the furtherance of freedom in this nation were back over 240 years ago when they were fighting against a tyrannical government. And they won our independence. Thank you very much to those men and women that did that. But you got to stop with this stuff because it's not, nothing is going to come to fruition from this. Okay. There's no secret plan out there. Donald Trump was a great president, but he is not a super being that is going to fly into Washington, D.C. and take over with a cape, right? That's just, it's ridiculous for the way people believe that when you're not in office anymore, that supposedly he's got some kind of mystic power. Let me tell you, twice, well, actually 3 times. So Camp Robinson Police Department, Federal Air Marshal, FBI agent. Every time I left an agency and I had to give the badge and the creds back, it was a painful experience because the instant I gave that back and signed that piece of paper and was out-briefed, I was no longer a law enforcement officer. And when you leave the federal government, your authority and your position, official position, is gone. It no longer exists. Same thing when I left the SEAL teams. It was a bittersweet day. It was a terrible day. I went from the SEAL teams, and 2 weeks later was training to be an air marshal, and that was the greatest job I could have ever had. It was a career move because I went in older, and I was 27 when I went through BUDS, 30 when I went through Ranger School, and it was it was a tough decision to make. But I knew if I wanted to get into federal law enforcement, I had to move. But the point is, when I left, I was no longer in the SEAL teams. It was done. When I left the FBI, although I was extremely joyful on that day, the authority of being an FBI agent was given back. Well, President Trump, when he left the office of the presidency, is no longer president. And attorneys that he has are now private attorneys. They're not DOJ attorneys. They're not fighting, not that the DOJ or FBI ever did anything for our, or DHS for that matter, did anything for our election process, because they didn't. But President Trump is not going to swoop in and constitutionally do anything that in secret. You see how the Supreme Court is worthless. The Senate Republicans are worthless. The Congress, whole Congress is worthless. Joe Biden doesn't care what Trump says or does. Stop living in a fantasy world, people. We screwed up as a nation because we allowed the left to play their game and convince the world and half the population that Joe Biden won the election. And all these Senate seats, don't forget about Senate seats and those were voted on by people. And yeah, it was skewed and a lot of that stuff was stolen. But the fact is, we didn't insist as a people on election integrity and paper ballots counted like they used to be and getting away from technology and voting. We didn't do any of that. And we suffered the consequences of that. While all you Q people are outraged because I'm talking about this stuff, you know, while you guys were all thinking there was some kind of super secret plan, the Democrats were doing a pretty incredible job at stealing the way that we completely do elections. It's not they just stole that election. They literally revamped the entire way. Who do you think owns the technology? Silicon Valley creates and owns all that technology. And we didn't stop it. Nobody was in an uproar about that. For the entire 4 years Trump was in office. They tried to steal it in the election before that, and nobody said a damn thing about it the entire 4 years he was in. Right? There's some secret plan it's gonna work. This is gonna happen. Never happened. You go to a war. Listen, it's very similar to this. When we train for CQC, used to be called CQB, now CQC. When you go into a room, that's room clearing, like a SWAT team when they enter a room. Okay, when the SEALs enter a room, when we go in there, we may sneak up on the house. We may have the breacher go up there and plant an explosive on the door to blow the door in, and we give the countdown quietly. Nobody knows we're there. Look, as soon as you blow the door down, everybody knows you're there. As soon as you go in, the plan, and once you initiate, it's known, right? You're working with violence of action, and you're moving, which violence of action is a controlled aggression to go through and clear the house. Point being, you can plan in secret, but most plans are not carried out in secret. Even the Democrats and all the stuff that they did, a lot of it was in plain view. But everybody was so focused on impeachments and Twitter and arguments and hatred of this, or, you know, the left hates us and we hate the left and all this stuff that's going on in the fake news, that they didn't even see what was happening, what was occurring. And the other thing that's been occurring, as far as secret goes, is the way for the past 80 years that the left has been coordinating and growing and grooming people to be in positions of power in the government around the United States. And not just government, activists. There's activist groups that have been around for 30, 40, 50 years. They know how to protest and riot. They know how to organize these things. The technology for them it's a godsend. The right has done none of that stuff. So getting back to what I was saying here is I'm going to play this video where Fox News' Kristen Fisher is asking the DHS secretary, is there a crisis on the border? Now, remember, it's now it's now March 2nd, okay? So 2 months ago, the crisis at the border was all the rage, right? The leftists, Trump is ruining this, he's ruining that, people are dying at the border. No, look, nothing changed. It's not like the day within 2 months of Biden taking over that a crisis just went away. And the fact that this guy's going to sit up there and say what he does shows you overtly that I think half believe their own bullcrap, and the other thing is that they have no problem telling you a lie. Let's listen.
But the new Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, does not think it constitutes a crisis. Do you believe that right now there is a crisis at the border?
I think that the answer is no.
I think that the answer is no. And I talk like this because I have so much crap in my head. It's coming out of my nose. Idiot.
I think there is a challenge at the border that we are managing.
Oh, so now it's a challenge at the border. It's no longer a crisis at the border. Now it's a challenge at the border.
And we have our resources dedicated to managing it.
Secretary Mayorkas' predecessor.
Now, there is no more resources managing it than there was 2 months ago or 6 months ago, right? The same resources that were there before are there now. Nothing has changed. The situation is just as much of a crisis as it was before, probably more so now because they're actually inviting people. And so that whole statement he just said is crap.
In the Trump administration, Chad Wolf strongly disagrees, citing the new tent facilities to handle the surge in migrants popping up in Texas.
Everyone knows there's a crisis going on, and I think that the leader of the department needs to be honest with the American people.
I tell you what, that guy annoys me so bad. That's all he has to say, that he needs to be honest with the American people. How about calling him a flat-out liar and activist that's now in the position that I just held 2 months ago? That's what he should have said. He should have said 2 months ago, I was bringing honesty and integrity to this department, and we were doing our best by building the wall and trying to stop the flow and control the flow of immigrants into the United States so that we can see who actually needs to be here, who doesn't need to be here, and vetting those people as they come through. And this guy's a liar. That's what he should have said. But you know what? He didn't say it. You know why he didn't say that? Because he was worthless. Because he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything while he was in that position. Chad Wolf is as big of a loser as this other guy, I can't even say his name, that's now the DHS director.
Mayorkas says his department is working around the clock to rebuild a humane immigration system that he claims was dismantled by the Trump administration.
It takes time to build out of the depths of cruelty that the administration before us established.
Remember, nothing has changed, right? The depths of cruelty. If it was that cruel, why didn't they change anything? They haven't changed anything. I have friends that are in Border Patrol. Nothing has changed except for the ease of the people who are illegal being able to get through. And I'm not talking about just good people. I'm talking about drug dealers, murderers that are making their way across. Now it's a free open invitation. People were held to a standard. And you know who started all this crap anyway? Was, first of all, Obama. I shouldn't say he started it. He amplified it. The reality is politics are what started this, and politics are what could stop it, but they won't stop it because this is just another thing that they don't fix, but they argue and debate about so they can all get elected. That's all this is just a platform for popularity. They don't give a crap about anybody, about this nation, about people coming over the border. This guy right here that's speaking is a liar, and he's a leftist, and he's an activist.
We are not saying don't come. We are saying don't come now.
But a Democratic congressman from
I don't even know what to say about stupidity like this. Sorry I keep stopping this, but, I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing. That is the most ridiculous thing I've heard in a long time from this idiot, Mayorkas.
Texas told Axios the bad guys know how to market that kind of message, adding, you just can't say, yeah, let everybody in, because then we're affected down there at the border. Cooperation on migration topped the agenda of President Biden's virtual meeting with the president of Mexico. President Obrador had signaled that he was planning to ask President Biden to consider sharing part of the United States' coronavirus vaccine supply with his country. But the White House press secretary said the answer is no.
The administration's focus is on ensuring that every American is vaccinated. And once we accomplish that objective, we're happy to discuss further steps beyond that.
She is an idiot, just so everybody knows. The worst press secretary in the history of press secretaries. I don't know if there's anything else on this soundbite. Let's see.
But just moments ago, President Biden was asked if the U.S. would send vaccines to Mexico, and President Biden responded, quote, "We are going to talk about that." So we'll see, but White House...
Oh, boy. The incompetence level in this administration is, it's literally like they're just making it up as they go along, but it's like sophomoric. The incompetence is ridiculous. It's out of hand. All right, now that that's over with, and I've covered that for how long I've been going here, 20 minutes. I want to talk real quick about these headlines, okay? Ex-CIA Director John Brennan says that he's, quote, now I'm quoting this, increasingly embarrassed to be a white male. And I tweeted out just a little bit ago that that's ironic because most people have always seen him as a shit stain on the nation. And he really is. He's it was terrible as a CIA director. He does nothing but whine all the time. Let's listen to him.
That's why we started with Katie Benner's great new reporting about the investigation into police officer. It renders, at best hypocritical, at worst cynical and false, any notion that the Republicans care about the lives and the safety of law enforcement.
Well, I must say, to Claire's point, I'm increasingly embarrassed to be a white male these days. Light of what I see of my other white males saying. But it just...
So what's interesting about that is he's saying that in a derogatory way, and the host on MSNBC is one of the snottiest looking people I've ever seen. She thought that was funny. She laughed about that, right? So that's how serious they take themselves. He wasn't just saying that to be funny. He's serious about that. But at the same time, they amuse themselves, these weirdo leftists. I don't really need to hear anything else he had to say. Let's listen to a few more seconds.
Shows that with very few exceptions, like Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, there are so few Republicans in Congress who value truth, honesty, and integrity.
This guy, I mean, it is like they have a memorized script. We've been seeing this forever, but wow, this couldn't be scripted any better. The stuff that they say, the crap that comes, I've said crap like 10 times in this show. The stuff that just comes out of their mouth is just, it's laughable. It really is. The three people that he pointed out there are the biggest losers in government. Good grief. Let's see. Chris Cuomo finally breaks his silence about his brother. Finally, let's listen to that real quick. His brother is the governor of New York, in case you didn't realize this.
Before we start tonight, let me say something that I'm sure is very obvious to you who watch my show. And thank you for that. You're straight with me, I'll be straight with you. Obviously, I'm aware of what's going on with my brother. And obviously, I cannot cover it because he is my brother. Now, of course, CNN has to cover it. They have covered it extensively, and they will continue to do so. I have always cared very deeply about these issues, and profoundly so. I just wanted to tell you that. There's a lot of news going on that matters also, so let's get after that.
I'm telling you, that's why today when I was researching for the Today Show and I was going through this, it's like a clown show where these people are just sidestepping everything that's going on. And like that right there, what was he saying right there? What is it? I mean, he's not going to cover it because it's his brother, okay? It's one of the biggest stories out there. And when this stuff was going on, when they were making all these accusations about Trump and the Supreme Court Justice, Kavanaugh, that was trying to get all this, and that was the weirdest thing That was the weirdest thing with the lady who was accusing Kavanaugh from when they were in high school, and that he, not that he attempted to rape her, but that she was put in a position where he could have done something like sexual assault, but it didn't happen, right? I don't know. The whole thing was weird, and it was totally fake. You could see that it was staged. She got paid an incredible amount of money for doing that, and they were, I mean, that's all they talked about. On the other hand, with Cuomo, with the Governor Cuomo, a third woman has come out now and accused him of sexual harassment at a wedding, where he comes up to her and says, and asks her if he could kiss her, and puts his hands around her. I put the picture up on Twitter. He's got his hands around her neck, and he's biting his lower lip. The dude is a predator. I'm telling you right now. He's probably done stuff that may or may not come out. Hopefully it will. I can guarantee you that even though these things, it may not seem that serious, but I mean, in this case, he's putting his hand around this girl's neck, and there's a picture of it, and you should see her body language. She looks like she's wanting to flee her own skin, and he's a predator, right? So anyway, what I'm getting at here is that now 3 women have come out. I can guarantee you there's going to be more stuff here. The media, including his brother, have had virtually nothing to say about this, and they had nothing at all to say about all these dead elderly people who have died because of his criminal mandates and all the things that he was doing with these women while all this was going on, and how he made himself immune from this, and how the legislature, both Republicans and Democrats in New York, gave him all power. They voted to give him all power. Today, they were voting, and the legislature was voting in New York to whether to give subpoena power, or to put subpoenas. What am I trying to say here? To subpoena the records from Cuomo and his chief medical guy, Zucker. I can't remember what his actual title is. And they said, no, they're not going to subpoena that, because the left is on the proverbial ropes, although they own the ropes. You see that? They own the refs as well. That's the problem. Right now, if Trump was in office and all this stuff was going on, it would be mayhem. But nothing's really happening. I mean, again, you're not seeing any protests from the right. Then nobody's protesting anything anymore. You're not seeing anybody. Albany should be smothered with people. The news media should be smothered with people with signs saying "Get Cuomo out." They should be just up in arms about all this stuff. No, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening at all. And so the media for over a year hardly reported at all on the elderly clinics and the people dying. Then they had to wait until some sexual assault happened. Not even sexual assaults, sexual harassment. Okay. It didn't reach the level of assault. It was harassment. And that's what it took for many of these Democrats to go after him, but they still deny getting subpoenas from Cuomo and his chief medical guy. What in the heck is his title? I don't know what his title is, but regardless. See, I got to stop this show. When I'm recording, I'm by myself, so I got to stop and look this stuff up, and I don't like pausing when I'm recording. So anyway, I went and looked him up. It's Howard Zucker. He's the commissioner of health for New York State. So that's the guy who's basically Cuomo's medical henchman, who has hid these records, because they all know what they did. They all know they did some really bad stuff, okay? And so they're hiding all these medical statistics, and the legislature's they're not going to subpoena them to get it. It's unbelievable. We got to have somebody on here who can dive into this a little bit better. Maybe I'll have the political diva on here. I'll have her on tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday, and we'll discuss this, because she's really zoomed in on this stuff. So we'll probably have her on here. She'll be able to explain this stuff a little bit better. But the fact is, all this stuff I was talking about is that the media, and beginning with Cuomo's brother, Chris Cuomo, they're on the ropes. They're on the ropes. The Democrats are on the ropes, but they own the boxing ring and they own the referees. So nothing really is going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. I mean, Cuomo may actually be pushed. This may be historic, where they may actually get Cuomo at least out of office at the same time that the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, very well could be ousted as well. This is historic. But the problem is the history books are being ran by leftists. So whether or not it's really reported as historic, I don't know. But, I mean, this is big. When 2 Democrat governors are being ousted from office at the same time in 2 of the biggest states in the country, that's huge. Let's see what else we got. Gretchen Whitmer, she's also being sued about the elderly clinics and how she did the same thing. Gretchen Whitmer is, I think what happened, which nobody's really covering, I think that all these governors, including Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom and everybody, Pennsylvania governor, New Jersey governor, anybody who's Democrat governor, I think they must have met and worked this stuff out, and this was their plan to put these people in these elderly clinics because they all had the same exact plan. The difference really between Cuomo and the others is that he went full bore on not releasing the numbers. He didn't even try to skew the numbers. He just didn't release the numbers. So apparently with Gretchen Whitmer, her health department director is set to receive $155,506 payout after his sudden resignation in January. And his departure still has not been explained. Interesting. Right. And so they're trying to find out what that's about. They're not giving them the reporters any information, and they're going to sue for that. Good. That's good. Let's go over to the Drudge Report, because that was where some of these headlines. Okay. First of all, Mitt Romney apparently has been left with a black eye and stitches after a fall knocks him unconscious. Unfortunately, according to reports, it didn't knock any sense into his head. And I actually feel worse for the floor than I do for Mitt Romney. So that was something. Here's a big thing, okay? Another big headline. States ease virus restrictions. Daily cases fall below 50,000. That's unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable how 2 months of Joe Biden being in office and doing relatively nothing that was done before has now all of a sudden drop the cases down to below 50,000 a day. And the states are, magically, they're just saying, hey, listen, we should just relieve, we should kind of ease up on these viruses and relieve some of the oppression for the people. It's amazing the difference in 2 months since Trump left. See, it's stuff like this that doesn't make you question government. It basically validates everything that you feel about government. This was the other thing. I tweeted this out earlier as well. Now, look, if somebody wants to live a lifestyle, whatever, go ahead. We're well beyond any type of normalcy in this nation about sexuality and gender, and it's become almost a more than even a lifestyle. It's just a way for people that want attention to get attention. That's what it seems like now. I mean, there's no inequality, right? This whole thing about before with the cakes, the bakers that didn't want to bake the cakes for gay couple weddings, that's a religious thing. They turned it into something because it's not like there's 10,000 bakeries in each city that they could have gone to and gotten cakes, right? So that turned into an activist thing. That's all it is. It's activism. It's division. They're dividing the nation more and more because that's the way you control people when they're divided, right? Well, according to this story from the New York Post, gay polythrouple. I don't know where they're coming up with these words. It's basically 3 guys in a sexual relationship. Gay polythrouple makes history, lists 3 dads on a birth certificate, right? Okay, so if you wanted to go out and have 2 wives, it's still illegal in this nation, right, to have 2 or more wives. But somehow legally, these idiots are able to put all their names on a birth certificate, which is an official document, as the dads of a child that if you see the picture, and you can go to my Twitter and see, and I'm going to put it on Facebook too, you can see the picture of these three guys, and they have the baby in the middle, and the baby's just a prop. The baby is just sitting in their arms, and they're not even paying. They're holding each other's hands, and only one of them's holding the baby. The other two aren't even touching the kid. So it's like three narcissists realize that not only coming out as gay, but also as a polythrouple, that they could get all the attention in the world. And even better than that, they adopt a child and then hit the media circuit. And so when you see this picture, it almost looks like when they're done with the picture, they just toss the kid to the side because there's no attention or love that you can see at all in this picture. People can say, oh, you're, whatever, homophobic, whatever they want to say. I'm not racist, sexist, homophobic, nothing. What I am is somebody who recognizes narcissism and stupidity when I see it. And it's all over this story. It's ridiculous. The same thing with the whole transgender issue. Listen, if somebody is born, and I'm not going to go into depth about this, but if somebody is born into a body, okay, I have a degree in psychology. I know what psychology used to say. It's not like reality changed. They changed reality of the textbooks to meet their activist beliefs, right? If somebody is born a man, biologically a male or biologically a woman, and in their brain, they think that they are something else. The problem is in their brain. The problem is not in their body. And that's why the suicide rate amongst transgender people who have the operation it's sky high compared to most people. It's 40 times greater than the suicide of anybody else in the country. And why is that? It's because there's a mental issue going on there. There's something going on, and it's not being addressed now. They're just saying, no, you're normal. You're normal. Well, they're not normal. They're unhappy, and that's not being addressed properly. But anyway, look, people can live however they want, but the problem is it's not just now you can live however you want. Now you have to be outraged, or you are a victim. And that's all the rage. And that's all it is it's fake division. Nobody's trying to get along. Like the gay activists are not trying to get along with everybody else. The transgender activists, not all of them are transgender, but the activists that talk about that all the time, it's not about sexuality. It's not about equality. They're more equal in this nation and accepted than anywhere else in the world. They'll be killed in many other countries around the world. Right, but you're accepted here. But they want to push this not for acceptance. They want to push this for division. You have to remember that. You have to remember that. Okay. I don't know if I really want to go much further today with these headlines. Although I will say this. Apparently Gab, the social media platform, was hacked. And the hackers are saying that they're going to expose all the militias and all these other people who've been saying things, probably in the direct messages. Remember, folks, you got to remember, okay? Nothing that you say or do in any of these social media platforms is going to be protected completely if hackers get a hold of it. And in the case of Twitter and all the and Facebook, don't consider your direct message and messenger protected, because it's not. I know somebody personally who had their Facebook page locked for a period of time because something that was direct messages in Messenger was sent to them, or that they think they forwarded it to another person on Messenger in private, and they had their Facebook blocked for that. So you need to realize that you're not protected, okay? Be smart, and remember, you're at war. I'm not going to stop saying that. We're in a civil war. Nothing's changed. I'm not afraid to say that. It's reality. It's what it is. You know, I do this podcast every day. And every once in a while, like today, the headlines are monumental. Sometimes it's because there's tons of violent things happening, or politics is really ramped up and something big is happening. But today's headlines, if you get a chance to go look at them, they reek of the Democrats and the leftists in this nation up against the wall because they're in crisis. 2 governors of the largest states in the nation are about to be taken down. Many other things are happening, but here's the problem. They own the boxing ring and they own the referees. I'm Jonathan Gilliam. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. Peace. I'm out here.